Super. Well, thank you, Aaron. Thanks for having us. I'm really looking forward to doing this with Eric. We kind of did a dry run earlier this week, and I learned a lot. I'm like, oh man, I never even thought of these elaborations that he's going to do. So I'll do kind of the start of the special person stuff, and then Eric will add all of his amazing iterations of what he's done. Eric, do you want to talk a little bit about anything right now, like how you learned about this or how it's been working with you? Or
yeah, just real briefly. Actually, Bryce, I got it from you. I remember being at a conference and going to one of your presentations, and I will just say that when I started introducing it, it was very transformative, and I found it to be a very powerful tool in my classroom, and I've been doing it for years. And some of the variations that I'm going to introduce here today were just born out of what I learned from you and just the years in the classroom, and some were born from students and ideas and just things that we found that were highly effective with students.
Yeah, great, thanks. Okay, so feel free to interrupt me anytime, Eric. And if people have questions, you can put them in the chat. We'll see if we can get those. Aaron, if you see several that are similar or something, you can alert us to that. So thank you. Just want to give a shout out to Inger. Hi, Inger. We talked earlier today and she showed up. Good to see you here. So this special person thing, it has really humble roots. In fact, it's so humble that I would, it started, I only wanted kids to be able to, when I asked them what's their name, to answer it, for crying out loud. Because I would, like Spanish teachers, you put it in the chat. What happens when you tell them, when you ask, ¿Cómo te llamas? And they can all answer back, me llamo, with their name, and they can all pass the quiz, they'll do great, se llama. What happens the next week when you ask them that question? Oh, I'm the only one that's ever had a problem with this. Yes, thank you. Yes, me llamo es. Exactly. They're wrong. Yeah. Or te llamas. Yeah, exactly. They just memorize it for a short period of time. They don't get it because it's not repeated meaningfully and in a personalized way. And so that's all I wanted to do when I started this. Yeah. Yeah, it just drove me insane. And then, I realized, kids, adolescents, they have nicknames, and they're establishing their own identity, and maybe they want a different name than to give a name on your roster and stuff. And so I always ask them that, just to respect them. And, I just kind of went from there. And then I made these posters to put up where I had it in the room, because I realized, wow, my faster kids are getting this in like 2 or 3 days, all these questions and answers in Sam Perfect. The kids in the middle, they're taking 2 or 3 weeks to get them. But I have some kids on the far end of the spectrum that were taking weeks, maybe the whole semester, a couple, I swear, the whole year. And so I just left these posters up with this, but I made a mistake. I've numbered them. And so people think that you're supposed to just go down the list and they go, this gets boring. But we'll show you different ways of doing this, especially Eric has got some magnificent ideas for this. So I'm going to share my screen here and just take you through a little slide presentation here. And if you don't know my website, it's brycehedstrom.com. Go to the free stuff page, and there's a drop down that says special person interviews. And there's also a link to that in the chat. And Aaron will keep on showing that for you. I have a book that's coming up on this. I have all this and more elaboration on it. But I'm in Colorado, and I know, I don't know where you are in the rest of the country. What are your students interested in talking about? You can put it in the chat if you like. What are they interested in talking about? Thank you. Okay, you already got it. Yes. Bright group. Yes. Here in Colorado, the students are interested in talking about themselves, nothing else. Okay, that's their main favorite topic, never gets tired, and they're supposed to do that. Why? Are they all selfish? Why do they want to do this? Some of them are, but no, they're supposed to talk about themselves when they're young, when they're adolescents. They're trying to figure out who in the heck they are. And they need to talk it out, and they need to hear other people talking about it to figure out, just to compare themselves. They need to talk it out. So why wouldn't we leverage that? And so this is what the persona especial, or special person, is so helpful. You know, it's not a bot, it's not an avatar. As Inger, as we were talking about today, these are real students, real facts. Everything is real. It's not Jose and Maria in the textbook. It's real kids, real things about them, and they latch onto it like crazy. And it helps with the class cohesion when people know about each other and they feel safe with each other. They just operate at a higher level. And so everyone is going to be thinking and performing at a higher level if you do this, because they feel so safe. This is amazing. When I read, I did the book study in this with several teachers a few years ago. And it's just amazing. Get this book. This guy, Matthew Lieberman, he's a philosopher and a brain scientist. What a combination. But he found out, but his studies, he said that Maslow was wrong. He said that Maslow said love and belonging are right here in the middle and on the hierarchy of needs. But he said in the brain, love and belonging are core. They're as important as breathing and water and eating. It's that important. It's not like some add-on later on. It's the key thing in your brain. It's the bedrock on everything, when everything else is built. When you do special person interviews, it's showing that you love your students and that they belong. And it's just incredible how well it works. So this is what you do in your language. If there's any language that represented here that's not in these, I have all of these on my website in the special person section. So if there's a language you're not, that's not on there, make a version of this or contact me and we'll get one going. I put these posters on the wall. That and one like this. I used to have several more, but this is enough. And these are not the answers. This is a judo trick with kids. This is not the answers. The answers are what the kid's actual name is and what nickname they go by and what grade they're in and how old they are and where they live and where they're from originally. Those are some of the answers, but the main answers are the answers to follow-up questions we do with them. And so leave this up because your fast kids won't ever look at it again, but your slowest kids, we want them to participate in class. And we want them to show that they're listening and they're getting something out of this. And so these are not the answers to any test. The real answer is knowing, the information that students reveal to one another. Eric, you can jump in here anytime. Eric's got great stuff, but I'll hand it over to you here in 20 minutes or so. But jump in as anything comes to your mind, because you've got some fabulous stuff. But how do you do this, Eric, with this first stage?
With the first stage with the students? Yeah. I do similarly as you do, as you have the introduction questions and these other questions. And this is what we're staying with for a while, especially in the beginning, let's say in my case, German 1, until they are comfortable with it. And like you said, is when you hang the poster or project it or however it is in your classroom, because you do want the slower processors to be with you. And you're right, the quicker processing kids, they don't look back on it, but you do want to offer that support with your students to let them know that it's a safe environment and that you do want them participating.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, just anything that comes to your mind, a slight difference that you do to make it more effective, let us know. This is what you have to have, and I'll go through this over and over in this presentation because I'm realizing how people misunderstood me, and it's my fault because I presented it wrong years and years ago. But follow up, that's the main thing. You ask follow-up questions and you're showing them how to have a conversation. Now, after the lockdowns, the last, couple of years, they really don't know how to do conversations. So you're showing them how to have a conversation. And in a conversation, you ask follow-up questions. Someone says, you're at a party. Someone says, yeah, say, well, what do you do? And they say, I'm an author. The next thing out of your mouth is not, really? Do you have a dog? Or, oh, really? Do you like to go skiing? It's like they throw that out. They're handing it to you on a plate. And so you say you have 32 follow-up questions about what they write. And this is what we're doing with our students. You got to keep it simple, only add a few new words per interview. It's easy to get overboard, and when kids are enthusiastic. Just do a few at a time and they will build up. You'll see how fast they improve. Only do the willing. Let people pass if they want. I've never had a kid pass twice. Once they see how you're treating everyone with respect and you're asking follow-up questions to some kid who isn't a superstar in sports or academics in your school, you're asking follow-up questions to them, and that really, really makes everyone want to do it. And follow the mojo. Just don't force it. Stop when the mojo dies. That means stop when the feeling of energy and attention and interest in anyone, including you, when it dies, stop it. Don't force it. You don't have to get through a certain number of minutes or a certain number of sentences or a certain place in the interview. Just stop when the mojo dies. So we'll go over that. Here's what it can look like. I do model teaching. This is model teaching in a school in Colorado. This girl, we only got through the first question. This first question, what's your name? That's all we got through in a whole period. Because I said, what's your name? She goes, Ashley. And she couldn't even spell in Spanish yet. And so, I said one time, we figured out her name is Ashley. Well, okay, great. And so I turned to the class and I say, class, this girl's name is Ashley. I mean, they just heard me saying, what is your name? And she's saying, my name is, because the prompts are here and she also had in her hand. I said, class, this girl's name is Ashley. And she goes, no realmente, not really. Like, what? And then that's when you attack. That's serving you on a plate to ask follow-up questions completely right there. And so Ashley, I'm like, what do you mean your name is? And you ask it all in the target language, because it's like, of course you're going to ask her something like that. You say, you said your name is Ashley. Your name is not really Ashley. What is your name? And turns out her name is Ashley because her mom spelled her name wrong on her birth certificate. And it's like, then you go, oh, really? Do you have a dog, Ashley? No, you say, your mom spelled her name wrong? Wow, that's too bad, She goes, I said, why? She said, my mom doesn't speak English that well. Oh my gosh, what does she speak? Her mom speaks Chinese. And so we just went on and on and on with that. And students were able to write 14 good sentences about Ashley and her life afterwards. She'd lived in this community for 9 years. She was in 9th grade. And everyone would have sworn, it was a small mountain town, they would have sworn they knew every single thing about her. That's what the interview ideally goes like, asking follow-up questions. So here's the steps. You ask questions, you listen, and then you follow up, and then report back to the class. They just heard you asking first, you ask second person, she answers in first person, then you report to the class, third person. And then report back, keep these 2 steps going, and then verify the information. I call this the Columbo technique. Oh my gosh. Anyone even know what who Lieutenant Columbo was? Okay, there's a couple people raising their hands. Okay, thank you. Bless you. I mean, this is like in the 70s when I was a kid watching this show, for crying out loud. But Columbo was this lieutenant who really was smart, investigated murders all the time. And he acted dumb. And he's like, let me get this straight. Let me get this straight. And so you do that. You act like you don't quite get everything. Okay, now when you said you're 15, oh no, you're 16 years old. Okay, right. You know, and just get a few details wrong as you're verifying the information. And then you ask the class, okay, what do we know about Ashley? And let them say it. You just said it with her in front, right, in front of her. And they've heard this over and over when you're goofing up. And then students write sentences. They write what people just said and what you just said here. And so it's repeated 3 or 4 or even 5 times, everything, until they write it down. But caveat, I mean, I started in middle school, so I know that this doesn't always work this way. If it's rowdy, have them write down questions as you're doing the interview or as you report things, because they'll need something to do. But the ultimate is for them to just hear the language and hear the facts and keep it in their head and then write it down. I said, that's teaching you how to be a good language learner, is by letting the facts roll around in your head. And then the quiz is students write sentence in the target language. So here it is with some graphics. Listen and ask follow-up questions, explain it to the class, you know, this just in, right? And then verify, let me get this straight. And then what do we know about Ashley? And I have like asked for students, what they've learned. I think this is the best way that I found to do this. Let them write in pairs, not 3 or 4, because they'll screw around and there'll be too much English going on. But let them write in pairs. Each person writes what they heard. But 2 people working together, they think better than just one on their own. And they're coming up, they're remembering what was said. They're writing in the target language. And I have them write in a composition book in the back of it, you know, and save 1 whole page for each one they do, because we may come back and they may know 50 things about that person by the next time we come back to them. But the follow-up questions, to me, that's the kick to work on. You know, I'm not afraid of the opponents practice 10,000 different kicks. We're famous for like going from one thing, the next new thing to the next, just all over the place. And I always fear if I'm doing that too much, I'm never getting really good at just a couple things that are really important. I submit that asking good follow-up questions is a kick that's worth working on 10,000 times. So, and when you ask follow-up questions, you're showing you're sincere, right? We're not trying to be fake, you know, you are sincere. This is how you show students that you're sincere, by asking them follow-up questions. So here's what we're talking about. In this first interview, the student, Sam, only said 5 things and the mojo ran out. And we'll say, okay, Sam, we'll come back to you later. 2 months later, we go all around the room interviewing people. We come back to her, say, you want to go? And she goes, yeah, I guess. I said, you want to sit in front? She goes, no, I'll just sit in my chair. So, okay, that's right. And so I asked her, what do you like to do? You know, and she goes, I like to be outside. And I had to give her this word. And I'm like, oh, great. This is a dud again, because being outside is not specific enough to be a good answer. And then her little friend said, ask when her birthday is. And so we wrote that up, the Valentine's Day. Then I said, do you play the guitar? And she answered with all these questions here. With all these, or I asked her follow-up questions. And so these were her answers. So you can put in the chat about what are some of the questions I must have asked her to get these. And this isn't every single question she said. This is just the ones we had room for on the board. But what are some questions some follow-up questions I must have asked her? They were all simple, they were all understandable. Yeah, what kind of guitar, right? Yeah, where do you play? Yeah, you take guitar lessons, right? You have a class. Yep. You know, and you learn all kinds. Do you like to, I didn't ask you, do you like to play? But that's a very good one. I asked, how much do you play? And this is why this is underlined here, because she plays every day. And she turns out she plays for like 3 hours a day. That's what you're going for, some excellence, something that sets this kid apart. Like, she's not just doing this because she has a class. She's not just doing it for the class. She's doing it because she loves to play the guitar. Because no one does that just to going through the motions to get a grade. And we want to celebrate that kind of excellence and model that kind of excellence with students when we find it. So that's one way to do it. This is level 1 in about end of December, middle of December or so. And the reason these present perfects show up is because they don't know, they haven't mastered all the present perfect. It just, this is a logical question to ask. Where do you live? Oh, I live in our town. Oh, how long have you lived there? I mean, that's like a logical next question. So could they do all the present perfect? No, but she could do this one. She has lived and she has played. Sorry, they're in Spanish if you don't speak Spanish. But next you ask, hey, could Sam get a 0 on her quiz tomorrow? And they go, no, because it's about her. I go, really? If Sam wrote, her name is Sam, se llama Samantha, would that be right? No. For her, she would have to write, my name is Sam. And so we changed them with different color. Spanish, we're lucky we don't have to put the pronoun here. And other languages, most languages you do. But it's obvious from the conjugation what the pronoun is. But anyway, this is how you change perspective and make sure you do horizontal conjugation that's meaningful. Everyone understands every single bit in this. And what we're doing is repeating. And that's how you get it across. And this is a result. This is in September, and this is early September, because these yellow words are the ones that no one in the class knew, including the interviewee. She didn't know how to say to cheer or cheerleader. So I guarantee you, anytime you interview a cheerleader, they're going to mention that. And so there was only 5 words that they didn't know, which is kind of at the limit. And this was a fascinating one. Because this girl does makeup and she's almost professional. She does clown makeup here and all this gross, macabre death makeup. This card look at stuck in her stomach and her neck. And, it's just incredible. And she was like the youngest person in the school. She just had turned 14. She was in a 9th grade Spanish 1 class. And her birthday was the 3rd of September. This interview was like a week or so after her birthday. And so all these sentences were generated by students. And we have a graphic artist in the class, or someone will volunteer to make a collage for the person we just interviewed. And they will get pictures from them, and they will write what they wanted, and they'll send it to me. I'll fix the typos and make sure the pictures are appropriate. And then we'll print it out and give it to the kid the next day, and put it in the hallway or put it around the room or something like that. It's great PR for your class. Here's another example. This girl didn't know people in the class didn't know four words, and I didn't know. Sugar glider. I could guess, but I didn't even know what that was. It's like a marsupial. It's like a flying squirrel. It was in Africa or Australia. And I love this example here too. It says, Bree would like to travel to Paris. This is another Spanish 1. She would like to travel to Paris because she thinks Paris is a pretty place. but she can't speak French. She needs to learn to speak French, but there aren't any French classes in our school. How sad. And she's in our stupid school, is I think what she said. She was really mad that we didn't have French classes. And it's like, that's kind of a diss to Spanish, but you added in there if the student says that. It doesn't all have to be wonderful about everything. And so this is another example. The kids get amazingly high levels of language when they do this. And we just send them this message. We want to get to know you, you know? We want to get to know who you are. That's what we're trying to do. This is sort of what we're doing with it, really. I saw this one time. It's for hostage negotiations. They listen actively, they show empathy, develop rapport, earn influence, and then you get the right to suggest changes in behavior. If you say to a kid, you need to start coming to class, you need to start doing your homework. I want you to quit talking in class. If you just jump here when you don't have a relationship with them, they will understandably, deal with that with lots of rebellion. But if you've gone through these steps, and these steps happen in a special person interview, if you go through these steps, you can take them in the hall and say, listen, you know that I love you, right? You got to quit doing this. You have to quit doing this. It's like, it's hurting me. It's hurting my soul when you do that. And it's like, that's how you get buy-in and get them to repent and like cry, I'm sorry, senor, I don't know why I did that. But you have to go through these steps first and with them. And that's what the special person interviews do. It develops trust, it develops relationships, and it develops fluency in your students. I know I'm going really fast here on this because I want to hear what Eric has to say. But we're repeating things over and over, including that key phrase. What is your name? Oh, my name is Samantha. Okay, Samantha. Class, this girl's name is Samantha. Okay, and you're just repeating this over and over so that people get enough reps. I did some other guest teaching in a school just last week, and the teacher was just horrified. When I asked kids, oh, what's your name? My name is Mr. Hedstrom. And I said, what's your name in Spanish? And some kids couldn't answer. And it's like that they were taught that phrase a long time ago, but they hadn't practiced it enough. They hadn't used it meaningfully. This is a way to use phrases meaningfully with students and to get the reps that they need so that they can get it. If you have upper level students, use this as a model. Ikigai, which is a Japanese concept. Start asking them questions like this, then ask them follow-up questions. Because I tell them, I want you to have a successful life, and this is Ikigai. Google this right now while you're sitting here for your language. Write Ikigai in Spanish, Ikigai in German, and Ikigai in Chinese, whatever, and you'll find it. And Lisa, thank you. I just happened to see her. Do you do this one per day? I like to do this twice a week and budget about 10 minutes or so on Tuesday and 10 minutes on Thursday. And then do the quiz on Wednesday and Friday where they write out about it. And then they'll trade papers and they'll grade them. And the criteria are, is it true? Is it something that kids said in class? And is it understandable Spanish? And that's purposely vague so that you can raise the standard of what is acceptable, understandable Spanish is. So here's this book, Social, again. And we're easing toward the end of my part of this. Lieberman maintains that there's this mentalizing system, which is the social part of our brain, not the forebrain, not your prefrontal cortex, which handles all facts and rationally deals with things. It's the social brain. And under certain circumstances, it appears to be a more powerful memory system than the traditional one. and it's better for memory performance than actually trying to memorize. I think that's what's happening when you do special person interviews with students. They feel accepted by the class. You're telling the whole class, her name is Samantha. She likes Sam. You like to go by Sam, right? Yeah. And, and just you're getting to know them, and they're sharing important things about their life that they want us to know. And we just happen to be doing it in the target language, and it helps them to remember things so well. It's crazy. I did a book study on this with several people. One of them was Stephen Krashen, and he said, "Oh, this is like revolutionary." He was really, really thrilled with this. It was probably 10, 12 years ago we did that. But that was really affirming to me, that connecting all these pieces here. But this is what we're trying to do. They're not alone, and this is not the end of your story. A lot of kids felt like this is the end of their story this year. So the must-haves we have, again, are follow-up, keep it simple, just a couple new words. You'll get plenty of new words, as we saw in those examples there with the girl with the makeup. And only do the willing. Don't make anyone do it. And then follow the mojo. When the mojo dies, the interview's over. Don't follow your agenda, follow the student's agenda. If you do that, students will be more willing to talk, and you will get way further with it. Here's an example from your question, Lisa, about this. This is how I budget it here, special in-person interview. And I say 1 to 40 minutes. In my mind, in my plans, it's 10 minutes. But it's 1 minute. If the kid doesn't want to talk, we'll move on to something else. If the kid's really talking, turns out a kid had a pet pig one time, and it was like fascinating. We couldn't stop thinking about it. And so let it go the whole rest of the class period, if you need to. But this is how I like to organize it. So I could talk all day about this stuff, but wait till you hear what Eric does with this stuff. It's like I can't believe I never thought of doing these kind of things.
All right. Thanks, Bryce. Is that the end there? I don't want to cut you off.
Yeah, it is. Good enough. Close enough. Yeah.
No, Bryce, that was awesome. Thank you. I hope everyone has after that, I have to have a great idea of the special person and what's going on in class, kind of what's behind the scenes and what's happening in class. And hopefully they're getting a glimpse here into how this is really fostering community in your classrooms and understanding with your students, getting to know each other. I think that's great. I'll go ahead and I will take the reins. Again, Aaron, if I miss something in the chat, or Bryce, just interrupt me, that's fine. I'm going to respect your time here. I'll go ahead and I'll start sharing my screen here. And let's see, screen one here. Let me see. All right. Let me just double check here. Is everyone seeing, just double check real quick, Bryce, nod, variations on the special person interview? Everyone's there? Okay, just want to make sure the tech is working here. I'll go ahead, and as I go through, these are going to be variations, what I call on the special person interview. And before I start, I want to let you know I will be sharing this full presentation with you. I'm going to go through, kind of skip and go through things here in the beginning so we can actually get to some of the activities that you use in the classroom to vary it. Because always one of the goals is I like that when you guys I do appreciate everyone taking their time to be here with me and Bryce today, that we want to offer you something that you can take back to your classroom and readily use and immediately use, either here for a strong end to the school year or to get off on the right foot tomorrow. So, all right, like I said, you can come back to this a little bit more about me. You can always reach me at eric-richards.com or LinkedIn, Twitter. You guys, the contact information is there. And like I said here in the beginning, is the special person interview. When I saw Bryce, this was really transformative in teaching and what I started doing in the classroom. It really is a powerful tool. It really just helps you stay in the target language, but importantly, it helps everyone get to connect and know each other. And I can't stress that enough. For those who haven't tried this, please start doing this in your classroom and trying it out, because you're just going to see how transformative it can be in the connections with your students. And I love this quote. It's the little conversations that build the relationships and make an impact on each student. And that, I really find that to be so true when I started doing this. However, I will ask you here before we get started to keep the overall idea of the special person interview in mind. And this is the overall idea I take from it, is we want to engage and connect with our students in the target language in a way that is personal, meaningful, and that creates a community of respect through getting to know and understand one another. So keep that broad idea in your mind as we go through some of these. Okay, and lastly, I'll say that you are always the expert in your classroom. You know your students, you know your abilities. You can always take the overall ideas, implement them as you see fit, and play to your strengths. Play to your teaching style, because you're going to do some great things. So, okay, let's get started here. I'm just going to go ahead. I'm going to scroll through this real quick, and this is just about types of questions we ask. I want to get to the actual activities here. These are just some types of questions that we're asking all the time in a special person interview. And I'm just going to go through a couple, come back to it, check it out. Questions that allow students to introduce themselves. Questions that allow students to talk about their emotions, feelings, favorite things in life, preference, tastes. We also want to ask questions that are meaningful and personal, but not too personal, things that do outside of school. But like Bryce said, we are opening questions that are open-ended, but importantly, we are asking questions that allow those follow-up. Like Bryce said, that is something to be stressed, are those follow-up questions. I will give you a quick tip, something I do in my classroom to this day. If one of my students comes up and participates in the interview, I always like to offer a little incentive at the end for them. Because it's weird, it's high school, how motivating a sticker can be. I have lots of stickers in German and they love it. And just that little incentive, say thanks for their willingness to participate and share a little bit about themselves. It goes a long way. So a little incentive can always mean a lot. All right. So let's go ahead and just jump into the activities. And I want you to keep, again, what Bryce talked about, the idea of the special person. They're up and you're interviewing them. And Bryce kind of laid that out. And I'll start, as we went through this in class. These first couple ones were actually born out of students. And I want you to know these did not happen right away. We did the interview. The students were comfortable with the interview. They knew the process. It was standard for them. It was routine for them, so they knew. One time a student came in and I said, we're going to do an interview, and a student just raised his hand. He said, can I ask the questions? I had never thought of that before. And I said, sure, let's rock and roll with this. Like Bryce talked about the mojo. This turned out to be very popular. Student asked the questions. I helped the student. I had some students, questions, were on the board, projected on the board. And the student asked the participant, and I call it the hot seat when they're up there in the interview. They like it. I don't know. I just go with it. They like it. They eat it up. So I go with it. And the student actually asked the questions, and it actually led to a pretty good atmosphere in class. And I said, wow, there's something here. And then the next class, the other students wanted to start, hey, can I ask the questions today? Can I ask the questions today? And this was actually born out of a student. But again, this wasn't done until they were comfortable and it was routine, and the student initiated it. So then I started, after a while, we went through this, and I said, there's something to this. I just started asking other classes, does anyone want to ask the questions? They jumped on it. But again, you can have one student ask the questions, or multiple students can ask the questions, because I had a point where each student in the class wanted to ask a question with the student, and I helped with any kind of follow-up, and I was helping the students, supporting them where needed. But actually, overall, they did really well. I was very, very impressed. And another way, depending on how much prep time you have, is if your students are really involved, is I just have questions on the strips of paper, and I'll just have the students grab a strip of paper, and it kind of keeps it fresh for the students. It's something new. They don't know what they're grabbing. They don't know what they're asking. That's a little bit more for the class to kind of stay excited. And it worked out really well. And another just small variation that you may find is that I had one student, we were doing the interview, and the student in the hot seat just turned around, and the student would ask a question, and they would look at the student and say, and you, and then repeat the question to the student. And I said, well, and I just kind of let them go with this. I said, that's genius. They decided, the person in the hot seat, I didn't stop it. wanted to ask the question, like if this was like German 1 and we were just doing some simple fun stuff, and they'd be like, what's your favorite color or something simple. The student in the seat said, oh, and what is your favorite color? And the student in class actually would respond. And it kind of got students talking to each other, getting comfortable with each other and interacting with each other in a little bit in that manner. So things like that may break out, and you, I guess, at a certain point, you can encourage students. Another thing that maybe with the students is I have them conduct interviews with partners. I call it an interview instead of the whole class and the student in the seat. That maybe that in the day that this only has to last a few minutes. We only have, that's the only budgeted time, is that maybe I'll have them conduct an interview with their partner if they're comfortable with the questions and they get to know each other. But at that time, it's a little bit lower stress for the students to find because they're talking to each other. I'm there to support, but it is another way, maybe a little bit more stress for them. They can know each other. They can rotate with each other, each day, every other day, how you do it. So that's just another quick way that if you don't have so much time. But let me share one of the, my students love this one. So we have our student interview going on, and I call it stop and guess. We ask a question, the student, and before the participant responds, I have them pause. They do not immediately respond. And I turn to the class and I ask the class, what do you think, class? Take a guess. What is, Jaden's favorite color? And the students start guessing. Individual students are answering. The whole class gets involved, and really what it becomes for them is they're guessing, and they want to see if they're right or not. So again, you ask that question, you pause, and then you have some people, the students or some students in class start taking some guess. You turn back to the student and you ask them, what is your favorite color? And they say it, and then they enjoy this because they're seeing if they're right. But it also allows you a lot more mileage to get repetition because you can keep repeating. So what do you think, John? What is Jaden's favorite color? Hey, what do you think, Jane? What is favorite color? So you're getting that repetition, but it feels very new to the student. So you get lots of mileage out of that way. So that's a lot of fun. But before I go on, I do want to give you a quick tip that Bryce did talk about here, because you're going to have reluctant students that don't want to do an interview. I have tried this. I've had a lot of success with it. What I do is if a student doesn't want to come up, I just maybe print off questions and I have them write down their answer. And then I ask them if I can read them to the class. And I will read the class and introduce the student to the class. I want that student to be part of the class. And if they're not comfortable coming up in front, that's okay. And they almost always agree to this. And usually the next time that, it'd be cycled through their turn, they come up. So, all right. Again, I'm not trying to throw this all at you to overwhelm you. I just want you to take something back with you because we got some more examples here for you. The empty chair is another popular version, and my students eat this one up also. We've done the interview, and then eventually I give them a questionnaire and I have them write down their answers and I keep it secret. I collect all the questionnaires, I save them, and on a given day, I just put an empty chair in front of the class. And I just say, and I start going through the questions and I tell the class the answer. I try not to give it away with some of the answers. And I'll just say, this person has 3 dogs. This person's favorite card game is Uno. And I go through their answers. And while I'm following the same steps, verifying what is this person's, favorite game, how many dogs does this have? And I'm going with the class, but the seat is empty. And it's really ultimately just a guessing game. When I am done, I have the students guess which student in class this is. And they can't guess until I'm finished. Then we guess who it is. And I always ask the person, because they'll probably figure out you're talking about them at some point, just not to give it away, throw off or what it is, but just don't give it away. And then at the end, we all guess. And the kids love this because it's just giving the interview a little bit different feel. And the kids love that. When you start getting into that guessing aspect, they really eat that up. And then after we tell who it is, I always ask that student if they like to come up, share anything else with the class, or we can ask more follow-up questions. So it's a lot of fun. So just put that empty chair and I go through that and we have so much fun with it. And then again, verifying. So I will tell you, no matter how you do conduct your interview, and Bryce said this, is always you're there to support the student. You're never leaving your students hanging, whether it's a rather short interview, a variation, always there to support them. You want to make this a positive experience for them. All right. So again, let's keep this big idea. in our heads of we want to engage and connect with our students in the target language in a way that's personal, meaningful, and creates community, a community of respect and getting to know and understand one another. So keep that in mind, because sometimes the student interview can go. You hit that and you keep going and you want to run with it. But there's just some days that I found when I was doing this that because of, demands from the district, class, whatever, that sometimes I had to have just variations that sometimes could be shorter. They at least had a flexible time to it for me to work with it better. So a simple way I started doing class was to just introduce various vocabulary pertaining to emotions and feelings. So, and I would just ask the class, hey class, it could be a warm up. Who is tired today? And this is a real slide up here that, I'd use who's today, like these is tired, awake, happy, sad. It's a great way to use opposites with the students. Anytime I introduced a new word, I defined it for them. They knew the rest, and also using cognates. But who's tired, hands would go up, who's awake. And when I started doing this, I was just really kind of getting a barometer for the class. Kids would start going, and then I started following up with them. And I started asking them, well, let me say this first. I started verifying with them to get repetition with the language. So, who's tired today or who's happy today? And then their hands are going up and I'm like, and I'm starting and I'm with the class. Oh, Monty is happy today, class. Devin is also happy. Oh no, Danny's not happy. And then that allows me to open up. I can ask why questions. Hey, Danny, why are you not happy today? And then depending on their level, you can do this in their, preferably in the target language. But if you see that Danny's really down, be like, Danny, not happy today. You just want to take 10 seconds and tell me real quick. Sorry, Danny. But it allows you to kind of confirm, get more repetition back and forth with your class. And it also allows you to follow up questions, why, and you can kind of go and continue to follow up with that. But what I also found with this was it also a great way to give the class a quick word of encouragement or praise. And depending on their answers, like, you could say, good luck. I didn't know that. That's fantastic. I'm sorry. These little rejoinder, these little phrases really I was able to work those in and then really solidify that with the students. Otherwise, again, you can always change it up. They can ask each other, are you happy today? You sad? And I've even made it these exit slip questions. We had a couple minutes to say, hey, yes, I'm happy today. Yes, I'm tired today, and then we go through. Just a quick tip, you don't need to always change your questions and vocabulary every day. Your upper levels, I see that. Let's come back to that. But again, I was getting mileage because you need that repetition with the students. All right, I'm going to show you this picture here real quick, and I'm going to come back to this. This is something I did in my class. COVID, we only had 14 kids in class that day. And we came in and I hang like some phrases about the weekend, This one says, I watched TV, I played video games, I spoke German, I worked, I slept a lot. And then what I do is when I have these phrases up, students can come in, they can write down their name under the appropriate motion or question. It's a motion if they're feeling it, statement if they did it, or you can do it, have them come up in class and do it, and it gets them up and moving a little bit. And that way the whole class can see everybody's responses. And then you can go back, verify, ask why, and it's a good way to get lots of repetition. But what I found was really good is this is really easy for like math, because if you think about it, if I ask the class, okay, who did this, and I tally it up on the board, if we go to my picture, I'm not writing their names down. What I'm doing is numbers. I'm counting out loud how many people did something, and then I'm doing the math. And I don't know, percentages seem like a very weird thing to work in sometimes in a CI classroom, but this way is like kind of a natural way to be like, hey, 12 out of 14 kids, 86% of you watch TV today. And then it kind of gives it a little bit more of a real feeling, but it allows you to like work in numbers and percentages in a little bit.
Eric, I love that. I just love that, because typical, world language teacher mistake, we teach numbers, and then we don't use them enough to reinforce them to students. This is just like using them in a kind of a natural way, and also teaching them percentages, which kids need help working on too. So I think this is brilliant.
Yeah, and of course I always have fun. Like, only 78% of you spoke German. I need 100% every weekend, guys. What's going on? I always have a little bit of fun with them, with that. A couple more here. I know we're short on time, and I'm going to try to respect your time, but if you guys are okay, I'm going to go ahead and just give you a few more ideas that you can use to vary with that idea of engaging with your students. And this question is, what do you think? I ask this question with my students. This is quick and it's simple to elicit student opinions and thoughts. Students really engage well with these. Let me show you some of these. This may be something I start in class. We can end with class. And I'm just eliciting my students' opinions. So for example, what do you think? What is the best shoe brand? What is the best car brand? What is the best clothing brand? And these are real questions I've asked. What's the best Italian restaurant, Chinese restaurant, Mexican restaurant? And I was telling Bryce, which is great, is because when they're answering these a lot of times, I'm figuring out where I need to go to eat because they're going to tell you a restaurant that you haven't heard of. Like, the best Italian ever, you got to go. And so I'm always finding out, having some fun. But these are just questions, simple, quick. They're sharing and they're feeling involved because you're listening and they're telling you what they like and what their favorites are. And you can formulate different questions. Where can you buy the best pizza instead of what is the best pizza? And again, you're learning as you go. It could be very simple things. These don't have to be very hard hitting. It's a great way to just connect with your class quickly because they're going to hear their classmates' responses and they're like, oh yeah, that's great, I love that place, or oh no, I don't like that place. And it can get a little rowdy, but just kind of tamp it down, and they have fun, but they get to know and they'll start talking to each other about it. Again, level up where you can. I know we'll kind of go right here through this. That's just following up where you can. If you're talking about restaurants, where did you go? Is that your favorite restaurant? And what kind of foods they serve depending on their level. All right, hang in there, just a couple more, and then we'll wrap it up here. This is a lot of fun guessing game for my students. I just ask, it's called How Many? I simply project a set of questions that ask students how many. So in this case, this is a really easy way. If you're targeting a certain, I don't know, unit or a certain vocabulary, like with the family, this is an easy way to do it. So this one is, how many people in the class have a brother? How many have a sister or two sisters, and aunts, uncles, stepbrothers, stepsisters, grandparents that live in O'Fallon, cousins that live in St. Peter's? These are all towns I draw into our district. Who's an only child? Who has siblings, and so forth? We can go through a whole bunch. But we have students write their guesses on a piece of paper. And then after we've made all their guesses, we can discuss it in the target language as a class, what the answers are, So how many do have two brothers? Hands go up. You can start discussing it. And you can have that little bit of fun, a competition, who had the most. But this one's a really easy one to kind of set up, get a lot of mileage out of, really drives a lot of conversation in class as they guess, and they always learn something new about each other. Or a kind of variation on that is just make 10 statements about students in your class. Valen has 2 cats. Katrina's favorite drink is apple juice. And so I go and we do this. And I know, and you actually don't even need to know the answers for this because they'll tell you eventually. Just have students guess on a piece of paper. Is it true or is it false? And again, the students shouldn't be telling anybody as we go through this. Then discuss the answers and be like, Jalen, do you have 2 cats? And you may know this. You could have, the questionnaire, or you don't necessarily need to. And Jalen will say yes or no. And again, you kind of find out what is true, what is false, and it leads to conversation. And I'm going to leave you with one last one here. This is simple fun. What I do with my class, with my students, is how well do they know their students? So we've done interviews. I do this kind of towards the end of the class. I'm like, how well do you actually know your students? So they pair up, okay? And they write down, or they'll orally tell what the answer is for the students. So they have some questions, okay? And they are going to take a look at the question. What is the best ice cream at Dairy Queen? Okay? And they're going to write down, and they're going to tell their classmate, or you could even put them in the chair and have the whole class guess what is the best ice with Dairy Queen, or best ice cream. And they're going to try to guess. And it's always, I do this at the end, be like, how have we been listening to our students? How well do we know each other? And they try to guess. And generally they really guess well when they're paired up with a partner. They really guess well. What is the best sports video game? What would this person say? Or the fantasy Xbox or PlayStation, what's better? And they have a lot of fun with it. And what's great about that is you can get a lot of mileage out of that, because one day they're paired up with one student, another day they're paired up with another student, and you can keep going, and they're getting a lot of mileage and repetition in their guessing, and they're just reinforcing getting to know each other, and it's a lot of fun. And I always do it at the end, and I just frame that as how well do we actually know each other, and we go back through some questions and they try to answer what the student would say. And a lot of times, like I said, they've got it right because they've been paying attention all year and got to know the students. So I'm going to end it here. I know.
Those are some great ideas. If I can just tack on the end here.
Sure.
This works so amazingly well. They just get that interpersonal thing down, and they like it. Once I figured out that it was about the student and not me, my students really liked it. And they would start asking questions like, they say, "Senor, couldn't we just do this all day, every day?" They never asked that about any other activity I've ever done. But it's like, couldn't we just do this? You know, because like I said, why would you want to do it? And they say, because we just learned so much about each other, and it's so fun, and it's easy. It feels easy to them.
Yeah.
It's using that social brain.
Yeah.
And
when
so
you
yeah, go ahead.
No, I was just to reinforce what you said. That one where you ask them their opinion with that, like, what do you think like the best restaurant is or whatever?
Yeah.
Man, they really like. I mean, they are latched onto that. They love it, and they it's, oh my gosh, like they almost take it personally if somebody disagrees with them. It's kind of funny to watch. I mean, this how like they latch on and go with that, but it's fun. I know I'm just going to share this Jake effect. I just want to let you know. This is a kid, Jake. He transferred from another high school, didn't know anyone. He was also very quiet. He was in German class. Through doing this, he later told me that our class helped him meet and make new friends pretty quickly when he transferred in. He said he felt lost in the class, and really quickly he was talking with some of the guys in class, and they were going out, they were doing things, and he really opened up. And he actually took the time to come back to me at the end of that school year. He's like, "Thanks for really helping me become part of this high school and this class." And he's like, "I got to know these people. It was really great." And they're friends now. So that's a real life where the students are getting to know each other. So. Oh, did I lose?
No, yeah, we're here.
Okay. I didn't know if I lost anyone. So other than that, I guess we can open up for questions. Bryce, you can jump in.
Okay.
If you have any questions I have nowhere to be, so don't worry about me. So feel as many as you want.
Yeah. And just like we say with our kids, you know, my job is to speak clear target language, and the student's job is to let me know if I'm doing my job or not. So that's the same thing with Eric and me on this. Where were we not being clear, and where did we go too fast? A lot of this was fast.
It was fast, and I'm going to share the presentation out. And I just, you go back, you can reread it, but I just you'll have that resource. So I know it was fast. Good talk all day.
Can I ask a question? Are we allowed to
Yes,
ask a question?
please.
Oh,
Yeah.
Fantastic. I would like to know if you do this all year long. If you keep it going and have people come up, like cycle it through kids and do it all year long, or do at one point, do they get tired? Although I can see with Eric's material, it would definitely spread out a little bit more, the things you could do with the material. I just think of all the stuff I need to cover, and how if I did it 2 times a week, that might be a little much for what I cover, but I can see the real value of it. So curious what you feel about that.
Bryce, I'll jump in here first. Yes, I do this all year long with my students. You saw Bryce did it certain days. We don't necessarily do it every day, but again, the students, because like I said, that's where a lot of these variations came from, was because you're right. We do have time pressures. We have things, you know, we're bound by different requirements that we need to get through, or what we need to do in our classroom by the district or the school. So that's where a lot of the variations come from, because I saw the value of this, and it's so valuable. But it was sometimes, like you said, those days you need that flexibility where maybe it's just a quick warm up, just a quick barometer. But no, the value is there, and the value to me was, that's why I had the variations. But no, I do it all year long because it is important. And some days, you know, I have to do the dance the next day and try to make up if there's something I had to get through, because when the students are into it, and you're in that target language, it can just mean so much to the students. Does that answer your question from my end?
Yeah, I do.
yeah,
I do
thank
it
you.
all year long too. And those questions are just a starting point. Once you get to know the kid, you can come back and say, "Now, last time you said this, tell me about that." And I mean, it's like you're having a real conversation with them. And so it's not just only those questions on those posters that you have up. It's your organic relationship that you're building with students, and they really like it a lot. I mean, it's just, and so yeah, you go back and I tell them, put in your composition book one whole page dedicated to everyone that we are interviewing, because they may know 50 or 100 things about them. And I have them write them with full sentences too. Some people disagree with that, but I have them write complete sentences. And I say, this is a little bit stilted, but we're going to answer in complete sentences here. And it helps them just incredibly with that.
I'm going to segue here too, just following up on the writing, what you said, because there was a question here. Do you write about the students as they're giving you the answers, or do you write and discuss after? And like Bryce, if it's a little rowdier, sometimes we're writing as they're doing it. Otherwise, if they tend to have it a little bit together, a little bit more mature, we can do it afterwards. Like Bryce said, and that's how I do it in my classroom also. And like Bryce said, you're doing full sentences. I also coach my students on full responses sometimes in German. So it's not always yes, no, or one word answers. I will try to coach them and support them with the full sentence. Yes, people say it's a little bit forced, but I don't know. I personally believe it helps. It helps them in a way, because then they start kind of automatically wanting to respond more fully, if that makes sense, later on as we do that.
Yeah. And one thing too, this isn't really your question, Lisa, but to follow up, it does not get tiresome. You do it all year. And what I find with even level 1 students, I habitually asked all my students this at the end of the year and say, if I drop you off in a Spanish speaking country, say Argentina, and you had to sit on a train and talk to someone for 2 hours before you got back to some place where someone spoke English, could you do it? And before, my kids in level 3, 4, and AP would look scared if I asked them that. With this, when you do this, level 1 kids say, yes, of course. Think I'm stupid, senor? It's like that they have it in their mind that's like, of course I know how to talk to people. That's why I took Spanish, so I could talk to people in Spanish, senor. You think I'm stupid? It's like that's their paradigm in their head. That's like, I can speak to people in Spanish, and that's what I desperately want them to do. And this is a way to fulfill that dream.
There was one more question here. It says, you have second
Melissa,
interview.
did you have a question?
Oh, I'm sorry.
I did. When I was just really quickly, I started doing special person interviews for the first time this year. My students love it. I love it. But I found a resource online that was like projecting PowerPoint slides with the question, and then with the sentence starter answer in first person, and then in third person for if I'm following up with other students. So it's really great. But my question is, if you're sensing that a student really isn't into this and the mojo and everything, because I have a slide presentation, I find it kind of awkward to just say, I don't know, we're going to end it here or whatever. Like how do you naturally do that if you have a resource that has more questions or something like that? And I don't know. Yeah. Like,
that's that's a good question, because you want to do it naturally. I just say, I would love to do this and we'll come back to you, because I want to find out more about that. But we got something we got to do today, and we have this great lessons coming up. So we're just going to cut it off right now. And I just act just like you're on a talk show or something, and it's a commercial break and we got to go or something, and that's how I handle it. What do you do, Eric?
Kind of something similar. I guess in a way it does feel a little bit forced, but you just say, hey, we love it, but hey, same thing. We got to get over here. We'll follow up with you. And great. It can generally too, in a way it's kind of positive, because the mojo is still there. You're in it on a positive note. Just say, hey, and we're going to come back to you. Or you can just simply say, I'll say, hey, you can only tell us one more thing, or we have to end this we only got one more minute. Anything else you want to share with us, and maybe we can work through a follow-ups with that. So that's another way to say, hey, love hearing this. We only got a few more, a minute or so. Anything we definitely wanted to share with us. And then there was a question, do you have second interviews before everyone has gone once? Bryce, you want to jump on that, or you want me to go first?
I would, the way I just do it is organically. So you want to go, no, 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 yes, some outgoing kid will. But I don't take volunteers, because then only the really loud, obnoxious, attention-seeking kids will go. I go like in order kind of around the room. And it also kind of helps me remember where we're at in different classes. But so yeah, the first 2 or 3 people in a low-level class, we'll only know 2 or 3 things about them, because that's all the language we have. We know their name, their nickname, and how old they are or something. That's it, you know. And but as they learn more language, and as they get more comfortable sharing with one another, you learn more and more and more language. And you come back around, and those couple kids at the beginning that passed because they weren't sure what this was going to be like, they will want to go. And the one next to them that we only knew their name and nickname and how old they were, they will want to go again too. There's like, this is not fair, you know, because I used to only go once around, and the kids are like, we know like everything about this girl, why her boyfriend is so stupid, and what she hates about this and that, and what she loves, and all this stuff. And we don't know anything about me. You only know my name. I want to go, you know. And so, yeah, you let them go again, or let the kids that passed go, and let someone who's already gone go, and you just add it to what we know about.
Yeah, it's very similar in my classroom. I have a list of all the students at my podium, and as they go, I check them off so they know. But it's like, you know, I give everyone the chance who, you know, we start, and then you give the chance, so everyone gets that chance. And if there's that 1 or 2 that just skip, I either say, hey, can I read? Like I said, hey, can I print these off and read it to the class so we introduce you? And if they say no, that's okay. And then you just start going around, which kind of comes back to that question of, you know, we had that question about upper level. And then you as their language builds, you are building this because you're doing the upper levels. You're just using maybe, I hesitate a little bit to say maybe more complex structures, but you can start using the conditional and things that are traditionally considered these upper level constructions or tenses with your students. So it does work in the upper levels, because you're just taking it and you're building and you're spiraling and you're just building on top of everything. So by the time those upper levels are, you know, like, what would you have done if you didn't have to go to school today? You know, that's a pretty complex question. And then again, depending on their language level, everything's just bound by their abilities there.
Yeah, that's good. What else?
Well, I just want to say that I wish I was in your classes. I mean, I want to be a student. It's like, it sounds so fun. And I feel like too, you're modeling, you know, all these wonderful things that aren't even to do with language, like empathy and conversation, like you were saying with COVID and everything, and not having had that social interaction for so long. But I mean, these are such important skills to learn and to see. And I'm sure that your students leave with a better, you know, ability to converse with each other. And that's just really special.
Yeah, Aaron, let me just share. I know you brought up COVID, and this year I will be honest with everybody that it was a hard year. I felt like I had to dig a lot deeper to try to connect with my students this year, and I hate when I don't feel like I'm connecting with my students. I don't know if it's COVID and online, but sometimes it can be tough, but just keep after it. I did more interviewing and variations this year with my classes, just trying to feel that connection. It took a little bit longer than it's real. So I don't want everyone to think that every day in the classroom is like this home run. I mean, we have hard days. My colleagues are watching, they'll probably say, yeah, I thought he was going to quit like 27 times this year. So like, you just kind of keep after it, and you'll have the good days. Some days it's a struggle, but don't give up on it. And I think finally, with about 8 days left, I connected with one of my classes. You know, I mean, like, don't give up.
Yeah.
Don't give up. Keep hanging in there. So.
Yeah, you know, and speaking of the end of the year here too, everybody's almost done, I'm sure, but think about trying this out, even now, even this time of the year. Just do it, try to do a few interviews with some students to figure out how your style is for doing it and how it's going to work in your situation with your population of students. That's something I wish that there was I said hi to Inger is what her name looks like, is Inger. I've been coaching her, and she's like said, well, I'm just going to try some of this stuff. And so she's been doing things, even though they have like 2 weeks left of school. And I just encourage you to try to do that, because you can get a few of the bumps or the kinks out of that way you do it, your presentation of it. And then you can hit the ground running next year when school starts. So think about doing that. One other thing that Lisa mentioned, and I'm not sure if we totally addressed, I understand not having time, and you have a curriculum you have to follow, and you have tests and things. Of course, that's why I say 10 minutes, but leave it flexible enough if it really takes off, because it'll be worth it. And this is sort of like a teach for June kind of thing. It's like running and coming from behind in a race. So it will be well worth it by the end of the year. But I do understand if you have to follow a curriculum, yeah, definitely stick with that.
Yeah, and there was one question, how early do we start with this? And I'm doing German day 1 in my classroom.
Yeah.
So, actually after probably, man, for a couple weeks, man, we're already jumping in with a few just basic questions. These aren't giant interviews. This may just be 3-4 questions, and we're going through. So I'm starting relatively early, as soon as I can, to connect with the students. I try not to hold out. It's like as soon as, the first couple of weeks, they kind of see how class is, we're doing this.
Yeah, I like to do it like the second day of school, even with level 1. While you're still in the honeymoon period, they're still saying yes to you easily. And just start right away. And you may only get, her name is, and she wants to be called so-and-so, and she's 13 years old, whatever. That's it, that's all the language they have, So but start it right away and get them just accustomed. It's like, that's just what we do. We speak to each other in Spanish in this class, And so start early.
May I ask a question?
You bet.
Hi, I'm Maria. I was thinking that it is a good idea for the beginning of school year, but now that you say we can start it now, we have like 3 weeks left, 4. How can we start it like this is almost over? Because I just called one of my students yesterday that he's very quiet, and everybody say, who is that?
Yeah.
And I was so sad. I said, wow, it's almost 9 months and they don't know that he's in the classroom.
Yes.
Yeah, they say, who is that?
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah, I think it's worth it. And if they may not even know each other's names, that is just tragic. But you could ask a kid, okay, do you have a nickname? What's your family call you? What do your friends call you? It's like, so what's there about you that you'd like people to know? Or one thing that I think is a real winner is ask, do you have any special talents? And there's kids that will do stuff that is just amazing, from bending their finger all the way back down and touch the wrist, to juggling, to it's like just all kinds of just crazy things that you never heard of, like one girl said, I play the fiddle and the violin. And we're like, isn't that the same thing? And so she brought in, she played some violin type music, and then she played fiddle music, She goes, it's different. It's like a different instrument, and we had a huge conversation about that in class. But ask them, do you have any talents, And
Right, thank you.
that could be one, even this time of year that would know.
If you guys don't mind, I'll just pop in. I wanted to share a story. I haven't done student interviews in a long time, since COVID started. But a few years back in one of my upper levels, I found out that one of my students he had a real interest in paper airplanes. His dad taught him to make paper airplanes. This was an important part of his life. I think he actually competed. He had competitions in paper airplanes and then seeing how far they could fly. Well, the class got really interested in this, and it turned into an impromptu lesson on how to make a paper airplane. So of course I passed out paper, they all made paper airplanes, and then we had a contest throwing our paper airplanes and seeing who's flew the furthest.
Beautiful, beautiful.
That's great.
Yeah, what a great example. Nice. What else? What are your questions?
Mariana has a question.
Oh,
Yeah, I think I muted myself. Hi, how are you?
Yeah.
I'm Mariana. I'm in Cleveland. My question is about, like you were saying, you have people right as the person you're interviewing is speaking, the kids take notes and they have a page where they take notes. Like I had seen it done more like you talk and repeat the question and reverse the question and do a little circling there, and then having them do a free write from memory, or is it better if they take notes, or are they allowed to use their notes to do their free write? How do you do that? And how do you assess these things?
very good. I'll go first here, Eric, but you jump in. I have them after we've talked and after I've verified the information and we've checked what people know, so they've repeated 4 or 5 times all these sentences, and many of the words, the keywords are written on the board too, and the sentence starters are on the wall. They write what they know about this person. You know, her name is so-and-so. She prefers to be called so-and-so. She has, 16 cats, their names are blah, 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 whatever, wherever it goes. They write all that information down with a partner because they can jar each other's memory, and they will more likely stay in the target language if there's just 2. And then we will make a collage. I'll show the collage the next day. And if there's time, we'll do the quiz that day. And if not, we'll do the quiz the following day. The quiz is them writing sentences, and they cannot use their notes. The sentence starters will be on the wall. And so that can help some parts of it, but they will write up the sentences. And the criteria for the assessment is, and I think it's really important to do the assessment because that raises their level of concern a little bit. It's like, dang, I'm having a test on this. I need to really pay attention. And so the criteria on the quiz is it true? Is it what they said? If they write in perfect target language, she is 17 years old when the girl is actually 16 years old, that is wrong. They don't even get partial credit, because the quiz is, did you pay attention, and did you learn about your classmate? That's what what it is. And it just happens to be in the target language. So the criteria is it true? And the second one is it understandable target language? And so that's vague, so you can raise the criteria, raise your standard for what is acceptable, understandable target language throughout the year and across levels too. What I would accept for level 1 is, like the word order may be wrong, the conjugation may be a little bit wrong. What I would accept for level 1 would not be at all acceptable in level 2 or 3 or 4.
And the questions are like specific questions, like they have to memorize every detail about that person?
Okay, yeah, good question. If we know, we negotiate it with them. We say, okay, we have 15 sentences about Samantha. What's fair? All 15 questions? Say, I may not remember all those. Is 2 questions fair? No, that's too easy. So you negotiate with them. And usually it's like 2 or 3 sentences fewer than what we learned about her. So there's a little wiggle.
So you don't actually write questions. They have to write as many facts as they can remember.
Yeah, I don't want to make your life harder. I want to make your life easier. And what they write out what they learned about that person. You don't write, some people write questions, and it's just like, that seems like way too much work. Some people write everything down that everyone says, and I think that's overdoing it. Like if a kid was absent, I say, find somebody that looks smart and copy their notes, and then come and take the test, the quiz within a week. Well,
that sounds fair. That was my next question. What do you do with absent kids? Because that's a big issue.
And so, because you could make a ton of work for yourself and make a spreadsheet on every kid and all the facts about them, but no, just say, find somebody who you think probably took good notes and copy those down. And you have to do it the hard way. We heard it by asking questions back and forth all period long. and elaborating, and me making mistakes, and me trying to understand what people are talking about. And but you were here, and so I get paid the big bucks to teach. So you didn't get that, so you're gonna have to do the hard way, just stare at that paper and memorize it, and then come in after school and take it.
Yeah, I keep their notebooks in my classroom. I find since I started using composition books, if they take them home and then they end up with a bunch of papers inside their notebook because they forget them. So I have bins for every class, and unless they have a test and they want to take it or something, or they have to finish something, but if not, the notebooks stay there. So if a kid is absent, he can come during recess and just copy from any notebook.
Good way to do it. Do you teach middle school?
No, I teach high school. But I just make them keep their notebooks. I started that this year because I felt their backpacks are really heavy. And I mean, let's be honest, nobody goes home to read their notebooks at home.
Yeah, that's true.
So if we're reading a book or a novel, they take the novel home, but the notebook, there's no need to take it home unless I give like a particular homework. So I just have a bin that says the class number. They're free to leave them there. Some kids choose to take them, but most of them prefer their backpacks to be lighter. So they just leave them there. I don't care. Yeah,
I would do that in middle school, but it's not a bad idea for high school either. I like that.
I mean, it's like when you think these kids are carrying these heavy backpacks all over the place.
If I can offer a quick anecdote to the quizzes, like what I've done too is I'll be like, okay, guys, don't to bring the stress down, because you say quiz or whatever, they stress out. Just say, I'm going to take it with you. And then I might even give them a freebie and say, for example, like I'm writing it down, but like, oh gosh, class, does anyone, and I'll kind of act like I'm cheating with the class. Does anyone know, does John like to cook? And I'm kind of giving them the answer, and then someone's like, yeah, and the kid's like, oh yeah, John likes to cook. You know what I'm saying? I might do that with one to kind of help bring the stress level down, give them that freebie. I'm taking the quiz with them, and we're having a little bit of fun. But I just kind of feel like that can also help, that if you're sitting up there and you're writing, and maybe you do that little cheat mode with them for one, it kind of helps everybody jump in. So that was just a quick anecdote for you.
Oh, that's good. I love that. Yeah.
I think Janelle might have a question.
Janelle has a question. Yeah.
I'm just being patient. I was going to say that I've briefly heard about Mr. Hedstrom, but everybody else, I don't know who they are. But I will say that I wish that I had paid more attention to you, because it really would have helped. This is only my first year teaching. My first student teaching experience, I did what I call the mystery guest, but they don't know what it's connected to. But my friend Akash Patel has Happy World Foundation, and this would have been great preparation for that, because he has a global connect, which brings a person, and I call them the mystery guest, into the classroom, and had my students practice with one another this way that you have. We would have been even more prepared. The best way that I was able to prepare them was at the door. I would have different questions for them to ask the person behind them different weeks, just for them to get used to seeing another person say it and hear it every week. But this would have been really great, because they could have been very strong and more confident. And I can see how this would build the confidence, because the ability to know that what you're hearing from multiple people in the classroom, just that group work, how it helps you go faster, farther. But I just want to say that I'm really grateful that you're doing this, and that I'm going to actually put the link for my friend's foundation in there if anyone else wants to do that, because this would be a great prep for that. And then they would also get that experience, because my kids always, any students that I've had has always loved and been excited. And I prep it with, if it's at the first of the semester and we're having it at the end of the semester, I always say this is in preparation for the mystery guest. And they always ask so many questions, and I'm like, I don't know, it's a mystery. And then, and we don't know where they're from, so we have to guess where they're from. So that leads to different, I throw in geography questions for them to ask, are there large rivers, are there mountains in your country, are there things like that they can learn to ask different questions. But that I always throw in at the end, because it wouldn't be a normal thing to ask the average person. But this would be your way of doing this is excellent, because it would really build that confidence. And I just wanted to say thank you.
Oh, thank you,
Oh, thank
Janelle, for
you.
that. Well, make sure you check on my website under the free stuff and then special person interviews. There's lots and lots of resources on there, much more we've talked about. And make sure you check out Eric's stuff too, because boy, he's got some fantastic ways to stretch this thing.
And we have another hand up. Is it Moses?
Yes, sir. This is Moses. How you doing, everybody?
Good, how are you doing?
Very good, very good. It's close from the semester, close and everything. So yeah, you come down a little bit more. Thank you very much for sharing what you share with us. That's the first comment I want to make. And I'm not going to say anything negative on, well, there's a lot of different aspects about schools, organization, and timing and all that. But I love the ideas, and I just, in order to make it just flow a little bit more, I know where this situation of knowing a lot about each other can take us. And I think a very good quiz or test is dividing the students into 4 groups or 2 groups. And now that we know a lot more about there's many different characters, existing characters, people, real people, they can always create a new character and attribute all the different, things that everybody does. So that character is going to be doing things that they really do. It's a combination. For example, if Tom likes skateboarding, this new character, will kind of play a little bit with that. And if there's 2 musicians in the group A, well, that character is going to be a musician. So I think it's just like a good, team evaluation that's going to give them the power to say, well, we can, not only survey our classmates, but we can also think about creative stuff. And then we can put that into a paper, and that's going to be writing. So I love it, how this can escalate. And I wouldn't really worry about the curriculum. I'm from Chile, by the way.
I lived in Chile. Yeah.
Great. Yeah. So the curriculum is not leaving us with, the majority of the population speaking Italian language. So one can say it's not working 100%. So why not to innovate, to do some stuff that you can then justify in a different way. You can just also grab the standard and make it work with what you're doing, really, because it's, that's happening, that's true. That's one thing. And I don't want to get really extensive about this, but I'm in Cumberland County Schools, North Carolina, and I would love to get in contact with all of the teachers in here. So I'm going to just write my information on it, and then we can just go with the flow and share ideas and all that. Connect classes and everything that I think is the most important thing to do, right? Teachers' life.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
That's very good. Yeah. Put that in there, Mose.
I will.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's great. Yeah.
I love all the excitement and all the things that both you two and the attendees have added on to the idea of special person interview. So it's just awesome.